Hello friends, I'm Chadwick and this is Faithful Performance. We explore the testimony of the biblical prophets and how they perfectly correlate with the current events of today. Thank you for joining us. Friends, in this episode we're going to discover the Abraham Accord, which is the peace agreement between Israel and the UAE, and how it correlates to the deal of the century. We've done a couple of videos on the deal of the century, one being the historical and prophetic understanding of the crisis or the controversy of the covenant, the Abrahamic covenant, which we're seeing today between the Israelis and the Arabs, the Muslim people. So I've included these links in the video after this video is finished, so feel free to watch those, but it gives a prophetic and historical understanding of why we're seeing the controversy of the covenant between the Israelis and also the Arabs. And also the second video that's included will give the warning to the Trump administration while this deal was manifested and being negotiated with Jared Kushner, Friedman, and all the people that are involved with the Trump administration. I believe God has shown some warning signs to the Trump administration not to divide his land, his heritage, as we know, the promised land. And as we know, that was included, the two-state solution was included in the deal of the century released on January 28th. So feel free to look at those videos, review those videos to give an understanding of it. And now as we see this deal unfolds, as we see the stepping stones to the deal of the century, just like we discussed in those videos, I believe we're starting to see the aftermath of what we've discussed with how Trump is using his leverage, including with the Abraham Accord. So why is this important to understand? Why is the focus on the Middle East? Why is it the focus on a peace agreement between the Israelis and the Arabs? Well, we all know who keeps up with the biblical prophecies that at the end of the age, the Antichrist is going to confirm an agreement that's already in place for 7 years. It's going to be a false agreement, a false peace agreement signed with the Israelis and also many nations, which is very important to understand. So we can find this in Daniel 9:27. In Daniel 9:27 it says, "Then he shall confirm a covenant with many for 1 week, which is 7 years. But in the middle of the week he shall bring an end to sacrifice and offering. And on the wing of abomination shall make one who makes desolate, even until consummation, which is determined, is poured out on the desolate." So the prophet Daniel gives us the understanding that there's going to be a 7-year agreement in place that the Antichrist confirms and establishes. Okay, he's going to include maybe the Jewish temple or whatever it may be, but it's with many nations. Okay, it's not just with Israel, it's with many nations, which is interesting when we look at the Abraham Accord because it's with another nation, the UAE as well. So it's interesting that we have to watch these deals that come about throughout history, whether it's this deal or another deal. It's important to watch because there will be a deal in place that the Antichrist confirms and also establishes, which makes this deal important to watch. So that's why it's important to keep our eyes open to see how this deal keeps evolving, which is very fascinating. We'd like to review in summary the deal of the century, and as we will see, it will unfold into the Abraham Accord, and then we'll just have to watch and see whether this deal is going to be the deal in place, which eventually, whenever that time comes, that the Antichrist will confirm and establish. Before we commence, it's important to take out whether we love Trump or hate Trump. It's really not about Donald Trump. As we know, God's going to raise his kings up at the appropriate time, whether it's Donald Trump, Obama, Putin, Erdogan, Netanyahu, whoever it may be. God is the one who raises these kings, and he also dethrones those kings. So it's important to take our political alliances out sometimes of the prophecies so that we're not swayed one way or another. Okay, this is Donald Trump is not the Antichrist, Obama's not the Antichrist, Putin's not the Antichrist. So we have to understand this, that anyone who declares that is just ignorance according to the scriptures. The Antichrist will rise in the Middle East, as we've discussed in previous videos. So it's important as we go forward, let's just take aside our political differences or our political affiliations, and let's look at the spiritual understanding of it it so that we're not swayed or deceived, if you will. Okay, so when we look at the deal of the century, like I said, I believe God has raised up Donald Trump for such a time as this, good, bad, and ugly, if you will, and the ugly will be in the Middle East. Okay, it's just like with all the other presidents, they're going to make a mess out of the Middle East. You look at George Bush, look at Obama, look at Trump. It's going to be a disaster over there. Okay, so that's very important to understand. Okay, so when we look at what Trump has done with this deal on just a worldly level or earthly level, and let's kind of take out the spiritual level for a thing, it's been pretty genius at what he's done with just the deal. Okay, when we look at just the real estate deal, and this is what it's about, just like we've discussed in other videos, this is a real estate deal. So he is a real estate mogul. That's what his occupation has been. He's been one of the best deal negotiators there is. And he ran on the platform to get this deal done. This has been a big deal to him. This is one of his major points that he wants to get done. As we all know, he's very prideful and egotistical. This has been the deal that no one else has been able to get done, no other president. And I believe he has the skill set to do this because of his negotiating skills and also the leverage that he will create, like we've discussed in other videos, with Israel and also the Arab nations. So it's important that, again, whether you love Trump or hate Trump, he does have the skill set and the negotiation skills, the business skills that no other president has had to get this deal done. And as we're seeing it starting to evolve, just like we've discussed in other videos. Okay, so he did run on this platform of getting this deal done. He compared it to the hardest real estate deals. Again, no one's ever been able to get this deal done, and this has been one of his primary focuses. And what's interesting to me is he put his son-in-law, Jared Kushner, who is Jewish, Friedman, who is Jewish, he's the ambassador to Israel, and other Jewish people in the negotiating chairs, if you will, in the Middle East. So I find it very interesting that they should have a conviction of the Abrahamic covenant, which gives the land to Israel. And what we've seen, of course, we've seen that there's been a two-state solution that's been declared on January 28, 2020. So it's just interesting to me how this is evolving with this deal, how it's opened up to other peace deals. And as we will see, this is just a stepping stone to the final deal. But he ran on this platform, and obviously when he got into office, there was warning signs, I believe, and we discussed this in other videos that you can watch at the end of this video. Like I've said before, we've included the links, but there was warning signs while this deal was manifested with the celestial bodies in the sky, the blood moons on important dates, warning the Trump administration not to create a two-state solution, which again, that's what happened in January 28th of 2020. And now look what's happened. We've had division in America like we've never seen in a long time, with government, with race, with protesting. There's been a great divide, even in the body of Christ, which is sad to me, but there has been a great division since that time, where everybody's taken sides in so many different ways. So we can kind of look at it like the spiritual understanding of it is, since he's done the two-state solution, the division of the land, the proposed division of the land, which again the Palestinians have to meet certain requirements for 4 years, and then they will have, it will be a two-state solution, okay, and then there will be a capital in Jerusalem, however that may look. But it's important to realize that since he's done that, there's been a great divide in this land spiritually. Again, we're speaking about the spiritual understanding of it, of do not divide God's land. And so it's important to understand that. And again, just review those videos and we'll give you the historical and the prophetic understanding of it. And also the cases where other presidents have mentioned the two-state solution, and we've had catastrophes on our soil in America. So it's just, we cannot divide that land. We cannot be a part of dividing the land, as we see in Joel 3, and also that includes Matthew 25 as well. So it's just important to really pray for the president, and also pray for Jared Kushner, Friedman, all of the people who are involved, Netanyahu, that they do not eventually divide God's land, as I believe it could be a literal division of the land. So at the Trump, when he declared the two-state solution or suggested the two-state solution, it was interesting to me that there were 3 ambassadors that were present at the meeting. One was from the UAE, one was from Oman, and one was from Bahrain. I find it very interesting, and you can almost see this unfolding into this peace agreement that we're seeing right now, which is the Abraham Accord, which I find very interesting with the Abrahamic covenant, which declares that Israel's land is the promised land and we should not divide the land. And they named it the Abraham Accord, which is the peace agreement between Israel and the UAE. I find it very interesting that those three ambassadors were present with Trump and Netanyahu when he declared it on January 28, 2020. So you can almost see this unfolding then, that there was going to be some peace agreements between Israel and the UAE. And we'll get into these other countries as we proceed. But like we've said before in other videos, and it's going just like we've mentioned, that Trump is going to use the leverage that he has created. When he was in office, when he got into the presidency, he started to create this leverage by meeting with approximately 50 Arab leaders, and they established a $50 billion stimulus package for the Palestinians. Okay, so again, he's the master at leveraging and he also negotiating deals. He wrote The Art of the Deal for a reason, and he's using his negotiating skills and his skill set to get leverage on both sides. So he created in his presidency leverage with the Arab nations, which no other president has done. Again, they just didn't have the skill set to do it or the negotiating skills. But he's created that leverage with approximately 50 Arab leaders with a $50 billion stimulus package, because again, they're going to pressure the Palestinians. So it's kind of a genius move by him, just as a real estate deal, that he was going to create leverage so that they can pressure the Palestinians to come to the table. You see, so in a real estate deal, and my job, my occupation as real estate, is you have to have both sides come to a compromise. Okay, and he knows that. He's been in real estate for decades, so he understands leverage. He understands the business deal, the real estate deal, and how to get people to the table. We all know he loves deals. Okay, he's mentioned that several times, and this is no different with the Arab nations and also Israel. Okay, you look at what he's done with Israel. Since he's been in office, he declared the Golan Heights their land. He moved the embassy to Jerusalem. Again, he's creating leverage, okay, with the Israelis, with Netanyahu. And then look what he's done, like we've mentioned, with the Arab nations, approximately 50 of them. And again, what he's doing, Trump's not doing this for evil. I truly believe he's trying to bring peace in the Middle East, which I would love to have peace in the Middle East. I'm sure you would too, and even in the world. But as we proceed to the end of the age, we know that that's not going to happen. We're only going to have true peace, especially in the Middle East, when Messiah returns for his second coming events and throughout his millennial kingdom, which we will have 1,000-year peace. So I know we can't all wait for that. I mean, I know I'm looking forward to that as well, where the swords will be turned into plowshares, just like the prophet said, and there'll be no more war. But until that time, I believe there's going to be false peace agreements made. This is not true peace. And again, I'm not saying Trump's trying to deceive people. I believe he's trying, in his administration, Jared Kushner, they're wanting peace. They're wanting true peace on this world, but it's just set up, like we said, with this Daniel 9:27. Could this be the covenant eventually that the Antichrist will establish and confirm? Again, God's going to raise up his kings to move his prophecies down the line, and there has to be an agreement that the Antichrist will confirm and will establish, like we've mentioned in Daniel 9:27. So it's just interesting when I see what Trump has done to this deal, and just watching how he's negotiated this deal. He's created tremendous leverage with the Arab nations and also with Israel as well, just like we've mentioned. And when you look at the larger countries like Saudi Arabia, Egypt, some of these larger nations that America has so much leverage on. I mean, Saudi Arabia would not even be on the map right now if it wasn't for America, because Iran would have already destroyed them, okay, because they tremendously hate each other. So without America in place as the military stronghold for Arabia, they would be off the map. Okay, and in Isaiah 21, it tells us Iran will eventually destroy Saudi Arabia at the very end of the age. So it's important, and you can see how he's created this leverage, and Trump understands all of these things with Arabia, with Egypt, some of these major countries that support the Palestinians. He's going to create very great leverage against them and used that leverage, and he has done that. And you see how quickly, okay, even with Israel, Netanyahu was very dogmatic. His strong point of annexing the land this summer with the Jordan Valley and also with the West Bank, which is Judea, Samaria, which I'm all for. I want them to have every inch of the promised land. But again, that will not occur until the Messiah returns for his second coming events and throughout his millennial kingdom. Then that's when he will fulfill the Abrahamic, the Davidic, and the New Covenant, which we've mentioned before. So it's important to understand those covenants. But to this point, we saw how quickly Netanyahu backed away from annexing the land with this peace agreement with the Abraham Accord. This is not good. This tells you there's no convictions, and this tells you that Trump has great leverage with Netanyahu and Israel, and he is going to use that leverage to get this peace deal done. Remember, this is the deal that he wants to get done, and I believe he's going to continue to push and press this forward as we continue down the road with the Trump administration with Jared Kushner. I believe he was raised for such a time as this, good, bad, and ugly, and the ugly will be in the Middle East, as we have seen what he's done with Erdogan, etc., giving him the green light especially. And again, I'm not bashing Trump. All presidents are going to make a mess of the Middle East, as we've seen with Obama, as we've seen with George Bush, as we saw with Clinton, George Herbert Walker Bush, etc. We've just seen president after president make a mess of the Middle East, and that's not bashing those guys. It's just to understand that it's just a very fluid situation over there, and God's going to move his prophecies towards the end of the age. So it's important for this deal, when we see the Abraham Accord, Trump used his leverage with UAE. Remember, the ambassador was at the announcement of the deal of the century, UAE's ambassador. Also, Netanyahu backed away from annexing the land. So this proves the point that Trump's going to use his leverage to get this deal done, or bring it up to as much as he can, so to speak. I believe he's going to tee it up to whatever point that may be. We will see. But I believe he's going to tee it up as much as he can. And now, since that time, we've seen other nations come on board. Again, we've seen Oman, whose ambassador was there. They're wanting to normalize relations with Israel. We've seen Bahrain wanting to normalize relations with Israel. You're starting to see the domino effect of the Trump deal, of the deal of the century, with these smaller countries, with these smaller peace agreements. Remember, the Antichrist will confirm and establish an agreement with many. Okay, so are we starting to see that? Only time will tell, but it's starting to go, just like we've discussed before. He's going to use this leverage against Israel. He's going to use this leverage against the smaller Gulf Arab nations, which you've seen it. The UAE has agreed in faith to the deal. You've seen Oman wanting to establish normal relations with Israel. You're seeing Bahrain wanting to establish normal relations with Israel. And of course, we see the radicals. We see Iran, we see Turkey, we see Hezbollah, we see Hamas. Of course, they're going to deny all this stuff and come against it in the media, etc. But we'll just have to see how Trump negotiates this deal forward with all of those. Okay, he might never change their mind, or might not never come to an agreement, a peace agreement with those guys. We'll see. But this is false peace. This is a deception. This is going in the direction of Daniel 9:27. Again, Trump is not the Antichrist. Okay, that's ignorant according to the scriptures. Okay, or any other U.S. president. Okay, it will be a Middle Eastern leader that comes up and rises up to establish this agreement, this false peace agreement, which will be the covenant of death mentioned in Isaiah 28. It will fool Israel, but you're seeing the convictions of Israel back away, because they do want peace. Of course they want peace. They've been at war since their existence in 1948, where people want to wipe them off the map. So of course, if we were in that situation, we would want peace as well. But again, God is against God's covenant, not to divide the land. So we need to be praying for Netanyahu. We need to be praying for Donald Trump, and for also all the other leaders who are involved in this deal, so that we do not see a two-state solution. Okay, so now when we look at even Arabia, Saudi Arabia, who has come out in the public against the deal in a way, they have allowed Israel to fly over their airspace to the UAE. So again, Trump is using that leverage, because if they were so against it, then why would they allow the Israelis to fly over Saudi Arabia to the UAE? Okay, it doesn't make any sense. It goes to the point that the rhetoric that we're seeing in the media sometimes is just rhetoric. Okay, it's just hyperbole. It's just nonsense, okay? Because they wouldn't have allowed the Israelis to fly over their land if their convictions were so much against this. And even in the last couple of years, Saudi Arabia has really kind of normalized relations with Israel more than ever when you look at it. And then you look at Egypt with Sisi, President Sisi over there. He's wanting to normalize, or he is open to normalizing relations with Israel. Lebanon's president came out and said he's open to that as well. So are we seeing the domino effects of the leverage that Trump has created, and also with Israel as well? Are we seeing that starting to go in dominoes? And I believe we'll just have to wait and see what happens. We don't want to predict or anything like that, but there will be an agreement in place, my friends, that the Antichrist will confirm and will establish some agreement, and this could be that agreement. We'll just have to keep on watching. So we'll continue to do updates on the deal of the century, and also the Abraham Accord, and also these other peace agreements when there's major developments. But it's just important to watch. Messiah said to watch, just to keep aware of what's going on so that we are not deceived, because as we know, when they say peace, there is sudden destruction. Now that won't be until the 7-year peace agreement, but we can see these foreshadows coming along. So friends, I hope this is giving you clarity and giving you understanding with what's going on with the deal of the century and the aftermath of these smaller peace deals with the Abraham Accord, and also these other peace deals that we're starting to see evolve. Again, you can watch these other 2 videos that gives the historical and the prophetic understanding of the deal of the century while we're seeing the crisis, the controversy of the covenant. You can see those in the video links that I put at the end of the video, also the warning signs, and also as we see Trump create this leverage with the Arab nations, with the Muslim people, to pressure the Palestinians to come to the table with the Israelis, because it's not an executed agreement. The deal of the century is not executed. It was just a suggestion. It was just a template. It was just a declaration of what he wants, of what the Trump administration is proposing. It's a proposal, and now they're trying to force the Palestinians to the table to execute it. So then, we're off to the races, if you will. But I believe you're starting to see these peace agreements, these smaller peace agreements in place, and I think you'll continue to see it. Like I said, people have come out, Oman, Bahrain, Lebanon, all these people are open to peace over there, these peace agreements, which again, we all want peace, but I believe it's a deception that will eventually turn into the covenant of death. Whether it's this deal, whether it's another deal in place, we'll just have to wait and see. But at the time where we're living in, at the end of the age, when we're seeing all these beginning of birth pains mentioned in Matthew 24, friends, let's just open our spiritual eyes, open our spiritual ears to understand that we need to be aware and not get so caught up into some of these worldly things with the political divide or whatever. We need to have a spiritual understanding of it so that we can discern the times of the signs of the times, so that we are not deceived. So friends, stay tuned to more videos when we go down this path with the deal of the century. But I wanted just to bring this to your attention, that we're seeing this great leverage occur that Trump will use. He'll continue to use it. And if he's reelected again, he will continue to go down this path of great leverage to ultimately get this deal of the century executed, or teed up, if you will, as much as possible for what God has ordained for him. So friends, until next time, may God bless you, may he keep you, may his face shine upon you and give you his grace, may he lift up his countenance upon you and give you his everlasting shalom. My name is Chadwick Harvey, and you've reached Faithful Performance.